Story time! So this one day I woke up and I had remembered about this cup that I saw a few days ago and I really liked it, so I decided that I was going to go get it. That's what the cup looks like if you guys are curious. So I get in the truck and as I'm driving to the store, I get a call from my mom. I pick up and the first thing she says is, "Steph, I feel so bad." I ask her why and she says, "Bella needed to go outside, so I opened the door to the backyard, but I didn't see that there was a squirrel eating something on the floor, but Bella saw it. So she chased after it and the squirrel ran up a tree, but I guess she scared it so bad because when it was sitting on one of the branches, it looked like it blacked out and it fell to the floor. And where the squirrel fell, there was a nest of wasps living underground. So all the squirrels came out and all the wasps came out, So all the wasps came out and they started singing it. My mom was so mad at my dog. She felt so bad for the squirrel. So after we talked a little more, I asked her if my dog was okay. She said, yeah. We hang up. And 2 days later, I forget about the squirrel situation. I'm enjoying my life, but then my dog needs to go outside. So I opened the door for her to go outside and guess who's there? Yep. The squirrel. So my dog being a dog, she chases after it, but instead of the squirrel going up a tree, it goes up our fence, and our fence is pretty tall, as you can see in the video, especially for a squirrel and a dog. So the squirrel is just chilling, sitting on top of the fence, and my dog is just sitting down on the floor looking at it. It can't reach it, so it's just barking at it. But then all of a sudden the squirrel starts running from left to right, right to left on top of the fence, and my dog, the pendeja, is following it, and she's doing the exact same thing. I call for her, but she doesn't listen because she's too busy running from side to side following the pinche squirrel. So as my dog is running from side to side, I see something fly past her, and then I see another thing fly past her, and I remember about that underground wasp nest that my mom told me about, and I realized Bella was running all over it. So all these wasps were coming out, and I don't know why, it was so stupid, but I run to the hose that was right next to me, thinking that if I spray them, they'll go away. And as soon as I turn around, I see a freaking wasp coming straight at my face. It was like in slow motion. Me and that wasp literally made eye. So when I turned around, that's when the wasp was flying straight towards my face, and we literally made eye contact. So I dropped the hose, and me and Bella book it. We both go running to the door, and for some reason, I turned around and I looked at the fence, and there was the squirrel staring at us. We get inside, and obviously I was screaming, so my family asked me what's wrong, and as soon as I'm about to answer, boom, I get stung near my butt. And I yell, "Bella ran on the wasp," and I hear someone say, "Damn it, Stephanie, you brought them into the house." I'm still getting stung, and I see so many of them flying around the house. There was at least 20 or 25 of them. So then someone else tells me to lock myself in my room, and in my head I'm like, hell no, because then I'll be trapped in a room with them. And they were only stinging me and my dog. So as I'm trying to take them off of me, the guys in the house are trying to kill them. Bella's hiding somewhere, so I go looking for her, and I find her under a bed with 3 wasps on her head. After they killed the wasps, everything finally calmed down. Me and my dog took a shower, and my poor little baby was in so much pain. So later that night, I thought it over, and I realized that squirrel was out for revenge. It was almost as if it planned it. Like, are squirrels that smart, guys? I don't know. But we found that squirrel run over 2 weeks later, so the poor little guy just could not win.
Story time about my psychotic best friend. So we're gonna call this girl Gia. So a little background information. This all happened whenever I was in 9th grade. I saw Gia sitting at this lunch table alone, and I invited her to come sit with my friends and I. And after talking to her, I found out that she was a new student and she didn't have any friends. So her and I started hanging out, and we became really close. Like, she would come over my house 24/7. Well, my older sister was a grade above us, and she would act really weird around her. And by weird, I mean like she would always make fun of me in front of my sister, and weirdly enough, try to cause problems between us. My sister didn't really like her. She thought that she was weird, but because she was my friend, she was being super nice to her. Well, like a month later, she started trying to become best friends with my sister. Like any conversation she would have, I would be like, "Oh, do you want to come over?" She would be like, "No, sorry, I'm hanging out with your sister today." And I would go home and I would be like, "Hey, are you hanging out with Gia today?" And my sister would be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Like for part 2.
This is why it's better to have one friend that you hang out with regularly instead of having a big group of friends. And trust me, you're going to want to listen to this story time. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I was kind of going through an identity crisis, and low-key still am. I went to a predominantly white school for the majority of my life. So let's just say I was extremely whitewashed. It was one of those times in my life where if a white person said the N-word around me, I would just laugh. Not because I didn't know it was wrong, but because I wanted to be accepted and I wanted to be like everybody else, and I seeked validation. Sophomore year was really when I started to become who I am today. I wanted to learn way more about my culture and my background. So I started becoming friends with people from other schools that are more diverse. Eventually, I met this group of girls. And I thought these girls were going to be the sweetest girls I would ever meet. Now, this friend group was serving flavor. I'm talking diverse to the T. One night, we decided that we were going to spend the night at one of the girls' houses. Let's call this girl Sally. I kept getting lost on the way to Sally's house, and I thought it was because I didn't know the area that well. Keep in mind, that's what I thought was the reason. I get there and we watch like 4 or 5 movies before I end up falling asleep. And when I wake up, I was in a room full of grown-ass men staring at me. Storytime part 2 of why it's better to have one loyal friend instead of a big group of friends. I forgot to mention in part 1 that when I arrived, the men were already there. Mind you, we were in sophomore year. These men looked like they were in college. So I was already a little thrown off, but I trusted it because I was with my friend. When I wake up, these men are like staring at me. But they try to look away really fast, but I could tell that they were staring at me. I start thinking the worst of the worst. I try to think of any possible way that I could get out of there, whether it was physically or mentally. So I pretend to fall asleep just to escape the reality of it. But then one of the men at the bottom of the bed starts rubbing my feet. I immediately kick my leg so I can get his hands off. Now I'm thinking he's gonna be mad and I'm gonna get fucking attacked. So I try to make small talk to loosen the tension. So I look at the guys and I'm like, hey, do you know where the girls went? One of them looks at me and says, oh, they went home. So I'm like, I thought this was Sally's house. And they say nothing. So at this point, I think I'm being set up. I try my best to not make it seem like I'm suspicious of them. I casually act like I need to pee. Walk into the bathroom and I see a window. Automatically something clicks in my mind, get the fuck out of there. Making part 3 right now. Part 3 of why you should have one loyal friend instead of hanging out with a big group of friends. So I go into the bathroom and there's a window. I'm thinking to myself, I would be so dumb. I would be so extremely incredibly stupid to go back into that room full of grown ass men that I've never met before, instead of making my escape through that window right here, right now. So I trusted my gut and I got the fuck out of there. Mind you, I'm in my PJs right now. No shoes, no socks. I'm making my great escape. Call me Pablo Escobar. While I was doing all of it, I was in disbelief. Like, I cannot believe that I'm escaping, like, right now. Like, this is actually insane. Like, I did what I believed was right at the moment. And honestly, that decision might be the reason why I'm alive right now. So I make a run for it. I immediately run to the front of the neighborhood. I hide behind some trees and then I call my sister. I call my sister instead of my parents because my mom was the one who drove me there. And if she knew that something bad happened, she wouldn't have let me go out again. I'm frantically explaining everything on the phone to my sister. She literally speeds to come get me. When she gets there, I immediately hop in her car and we get the fuck out of there. On our way home, I get a text from Sally. Last part is part 4. I'm making that right now.
Let me tell y'all what happened. So I'm at the nail salon, I got there before it opened. Everybody was standing outside. So we get inside, this girl just jumped the line. And when she jumped the line, the lady in front of me was like, what you doing? Like, there's a line. And the lady was like, I have an appointment. Okay, but there's 20 of us outside. If you got an appointment, still get in the back of the line. Your part is secured. Like, what you signing the book for? Everybody knows when you get to a nail salon, you sign the book, your name, like you sign your name. So it does make sense why you signing the book if you have an appointment. It don't make no sense. Your spot is supposedly secure, so what you signing the book for? These are walk-ins. So they just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Da 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 da. Y'all both ain't gonna do nothing. So just sit down and get your nails done, please.
Extremely creepy story time on how my aunt passed away. So a little background information. About 5 years ago, my aunt had gotten pregnant. It was really weird because a few months before she got pregnant, the doctor told her that she would never be able to have kids. And her husband had been trying for years. Well, I think like 2 weeks after the baby was born, it had passed away. And I don't really know why. For some reason, my mom won't tell me. Which is weird, but anyways, after that, my aunt just felt like a lot of things weren't going the way that she wanted them to in her life. So she decided to get closer with God. Well, every Sunday night, we go to my grandparents' house for a family dinner. And while we were there, my aunt starts going on this whole rampage. She said that God's not giving her the answers that she needs, and I don't really know what she means by answers. So my grandparents kick her out because she's acting like a psycho. Well, the same night at 3 a.m. in the morning, we hear a knocking on the door. And lo and behold, it's my aunt. So my mom lets her in because she feels bad and feels like she's the only one that will actually listen to my aunt. So she makes everybody sit at the kitchen table. And she pulls out a Ouija board from her bag, like for part 2. Creepy story time about how my aunt passed away, part 2. So like I said, she makes us all sit down at the kitchen table and she pulls out a Ouija board. She was like, I found out how I can get some answers. I just feel like I need you guys around me for positive energy. And my family is very, very religious. Like, we don't fuck with that shit. But because my mom felt bad for her, she let her use it in our house. But my mom didn't want my sisters and I around that, so she just sent us to bed. Well, the next morning, I wake up and I ask my mom what happened with the Ouija board situation. My mom just said that it was really scary. Because before she thought it was like a load of bullshit, and she said that her and my dad didn't touch the Ouija board because like I said, they were very religious and did not mess with that stuff. But apparently, it said for her not to buy a house with the numbers 2815. Well, 2 years later, my aunt got remarried, and her husband ended up having 2 kids. So they bought a new house, and no, it didn't have the numbers on it. One of their kids accidentally shattered the glass door, so they went and got a new one, and it came with those exact numbers on it. 2 days later, the house burnt down and nobody survived. Story time about why I made my boyfriend stop being friends with his girl best friend. So a little background information. I was in my sophomore year of high school, and my boyfriend and I had been dating for about 6 months. and he had been best friends with this girl, we're gonna call her Addie, for about 3 years. Now, I had known Addie way before that, probably since we were in kindergarten. But her and I weren't like BFFs, we were more of acquaintances. But obviously we became friends because she was always around my boyfriend. A month after him and I started dating, I decided that we had to set boundaries for their friendship. Because they had first period together, right? Well, every morning at 9:45 I would go on Snapchat and I would see a picture of them. And it would be her kissing him on the cheek. Not only would it be on her story, but it would also be on his. And I had her on Snapchat before that. She had never done that, ever. So he said that he had talked to Addie about it, right? And things were good for the next 2 months. Then they were forced to work together on a project. Like for part 2. Part 2 about why I made my boyfriend stop being friends with his girl best friend. So like I said, they had been forced to work together on a school project. At least that's what he told me. So I brushed it off because I was not about to seem like the jealous girlfriend. Well, the next day, him and I were supposed to go out to the movies. So I texted him right before we were about to leave, and I said, "Hey, are you on your way to get me?" He goes, "OMG, no, I'm sorry, I forgot. I have to work with..."
Hope you guys liked this video and found it helpful. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. It does help support us, and let's know what videos you guys want to see.